So hey everybody on the YouTube audience, I remembered to hit record after only 16 minutes this time instead of an hour. Welcome to Skyrim and also Final Fantasy IX. Mystic Quest is not the best Final Fantasy. The best Final Fantasy is 6. The second place is either Final Fantasy V or Tactics, depending on how I'm feeling at the time. And then the third place is whichever one of 5 or Tactics I didn't say at number 2. Thank you, Jeremy. Jeremy knows what's up. 6 has great characters and a simple story that's well told. Wait, I have to go back to my fight counter. There we go. Four is great. The problem with 4 is that its story arc ends like halfway through the game. It has an obvious main character in Cecil, or Cecil. As a child, I always thought it was Cecil, and then I've heard people say it's actually Cecil, so now I don't know what it is. But, like, by the time he finishes in Mysidia, he becomes a paladin, he comes down from Mount Hobbs, and he finishes in Mysidia. Like, his story arc is completely done. His character arc is over. And then he just exists for the rest of the game. But the rest of the game is still a lot. There's still the whole underground. There's still the whole moon. During which he's just kind of there, unchanging, and reacting to things. And the focus of the character story switches to Kain, except Kain is outside of the party for so much of that time that you really only see bits and pieces of the cutaway cutscenes while you're doing this other stuff. So you don't get a real good sense of what's going on with him. And then eventually he rejoins the party, but at that point his character arc's done. So his whole character arc finishes before he rejoins the party. 4 also has the problem of so many people sacrificing themselves, except not really, because they come back to life. Literally every character who sacrifices themselves doesn't. I think Sid sacrifices himself twice, and it doesn't take either time. Like, he survives both of them. The only character who stays dead is Tella, but he doesn't even sacrifice himself. The reason that he stays dead and the reason his story is tragic is because he's not out for justice or selflessness or anything like that. He's out for revenge. So his character arc is about the folly of revenge. He kills himself trying to get it, doesn't get it, and he's the only character that stays dead. Everybody else sacrifices themselves to save others and is rewarded by not dying. And it happens often enough that it gets silly by the end. That, you know, yet again, somebody's sacrificing their life and you just know they're not going to die. You know you're going to meet this character again because it's happened every other time. I think Yang is the last one who's like, I'm going to sacrifice my life to stop a super giant cannon or whatever in the underground. And it's like, by then you've seen Sid do it twice, you've seen the twins do it, you've seen Edward do it, and they all survive, And you're like, yeah, he's gonna survive. He's in a giant tower that is literally exploding around him, and he's a martial artist with no magic powers. But he survives. Because, of course he does. They all do. So yeah, that's my story criticism of 4. But like, for the most part, aside from the fact that the character arcs happen and then they're left flat, and the character arc for Kane happens off screen for the most part. Aside from that, it's a decent story, and it's got, I think, enough seriousness to it, and enough levity to it to keep you entertained and not be like depressing or just straight out goofy. There's, you know, the highs and lows of it, and it works. But, you know, there are just some things that take you out of it. And then Final Fantasy V, they've improved that formula that introduces the great job system. The villain is a joke in 5. But at least he gets, like, good screen presence eventually. Like, all of World 1, you never meet the villain, and it's kind of baffling. And then World 2, you see a lot of the villain, and you get the sense of the villain, and then in World 3, you find out that the villain is an evil tree. It's like, how is this wizard man an evil tree? I don't know, he just is. And he does his evil thing, which is to restore the world, but then he's still doing other evil stuff, and he's like, I've done it. I've restored the world. I've merged them together. I've accomplished my plan. Now to do this other thing and destroy it all because I'm evil. So you have to go into the end zone or whatever it's called and defeat him for realsies. And this, I don't think it undoes what he did when he merged the worlds. I think the worlds stay merged, which is kind of weird, but hey. Again, it was clearly leading up to Final Fantasy VI, where they did, they focused the story down. They had a cast of characters that each had their own small arcs because they knew they couldn't write a character arc that lasted for 60 hours. So they had 12 character arcs that each last for a couple hours, and it works. They have one of the best villains, if not the best villain, in all video games. He succeeds in his evil plan in a way that is satisfying, while still, you know, being a narrative low point that you can come back from. You know, the transition from World of Balance to World of Ruin. Yeah, exactly. Kefka's great. So you build up the cast of characters, you go to fight, you lose, Kefka destroys the world, and you are left to pick up the pieces, reassemble your team, and do it right the second time. And it makes sense that the villain could, you know, cast the world into ruin and still be wanting to continue to destroy. Where it didn't make sense in 5, where in 5, from the moment you meet the villain, he has a stated goal, and then he achieves that goal, and then he just comes up with another goal for no reason. And then it had the Magicite system, which is admittedly not the greatest magic system. But it was foundational to systems like Materia, like Guardian Forces, you know, basically everything that came after it. Aside from the ones that went back to the job system from 5. Yeah, it never really got as good as the job system, but I can see why they didn't want to use the job system in every Final Fantasy game, because it would take away from the idea of characters having roles. Because the job system let you give any character whatever role you wanted, which is fine if the characters are simple and can have whatever role put upon them. But in a story like 6 or 7, where characters are clearly written to have certain roles that they fill, you can't have a job system that screws that up. And that's why Final Fantasy VI is the best. That's why 5 and Tactics are back and forth, 2nd and 3rd. Because they're like opposite ends of the job system spectrum. Where five had jobs gated by progression. And, you know, 4 characters who, while well written, are not placed in a strong story. Then you have Tactics, where the job system is entirely in the hands of the player, which meant it's more exploitable. And the characters individually are not as strong as in 5, like the player characters. But they're in a world and a story that is much darker in tone, much more serious, and if you can get past the translation, much more compelling than in 5. But on the other hand, it is very clearly a strategy game as opposed to a traditional RPG. And, you know, not everybody's into strategy games. Did I hit level 18 and I missed the level up thing while I was talking? I probably missed like 100 fights on the fight counter while I was talking. But it doesn't look like I'm able to level up yet, even though that bar is looking full in Skyrim. I don't know. We'll see what happens on the next one. Maybe the next one I'll level up. Maybe it's like a magic pixel that I'm missing. So that's why I go back and forth on Final Fantasy V and Tactics. Tactics is a very different in gameplay, darker story, I think a better story and world. Final Fantasy V, traditional RPG, or at least traditional JRPG. More balanced, even though it's completely not balanced, but it's more balanced than Tactics because there is story progression gating the more powerful jobs, and the individual character writing is better. So that's why I go back and forth. And that's my Final Fantasy rant for the night, I think. Unless somebody else wants to bring up something else. But frankly, I think it would be brought up from a game that I haven't played, so I wouldn't be able to comment on it. With all that said, I think it's time. My thoughts on Lee Carvello's putting challenge. I have selected no. I haven't played FF9 before this. And frankly, I don't intend to play FF9 after this. You have selected no, which means you've committed a crime but do not wish to confess. A paddy wagon is speeding towards your door. While you wait, why not buy our merchandise? No, Final Fantasy IX I'm really annoyed at, mechanically. And I've ranted and raved about that a lot. Basically, everything is tied to your gear, which is super annoying. This character's level 60, and he can't one-shot enemies from the back row because his stat growth is tied to the crappy starting dagger that he's equipped with, which means his stat growth is basically non-existent. Stat growth is tied to your gear, skills are tied to your gear, everything's tied to your gear. It's way too gear dependent. I don't care for it. Anyway, all that being said, I think it's time for tonight's table topic. Table Topics is a box of cards that is awful. They are meant to be conversation starters for what the cards call geek pop. What they are very surface level questions that do not actually spark discussion. Yeah, I think it's marked backseating allowed left over from Elden Ring. I had marked it backseating allowed in that, and I think it's just still that. But yeah, you can totally backseat on Final Fantasy IX or Skyrim if you want. But no, right now we're doing table topics. So I'm going to read the question off of this card. It's going to be awful, but we're going to get 5 minutes of discussion out of it. Are you ready for how bad this question is? What was yesterday's question? Would you visit Jurassic Park? Obviously not. So, yeah, that was yesterday's. Today. Wow, this did not age well. Who should sit on the Iron Throne? TM. I'm not sure that George R.R. Martin actually trademarked the phrase Iron Throne. I think that is a very aggressive ass covering for whoever wrote this question. This card feels like it's two cards stuck together, but it's not. They're just that thick and heavy of cardstock. So, who should sit on the Iron Throne? Jay says anyone but Bran. Mathwin says Panurtis, obviously. Wow. Panurtis won't fit in the Iron Throne. No, obviously the person who should sit in the Iron Throne is Iron Man. Come on. It's his throne. He's Iron Man. Okay, I must have gained a level and missed it. I'm gonna turn off the auto run. Yep, level up. Let's do a stamina this level, because why not? Alright, I am auto-walking again. I'm pretty sure Magneto can control his magnetic power. He will not just automatically get stuck there. I mean, if you think about it, Doctor Doom is kind of already on an Iron Throne. He took over Latveria or whatever. And canonically, according to the all-knowing characters in Marvel Comics, the reality, or the version of reality, the timeline, whatever, where Doctor Doom takes over the world, is the only viable one. Every other reality gets destroyed by something or other. Some existential threat is unable to be matched by the heroes of Marvel or whatever, and only Doctor Doom world is able to survive and persist. That is canonical. So yeah, Doctor Doom should sit on the Iron Throne. What exactly is the Iron Throne? It's the throne. It's Game of Thrones. It's the throne in Game of Thrones. That's why the question didn't age well. Game of Thrones ending sucked, and it immediately was abandoned from the collective pop culture consciousness. Much like the movie Avatar. Remember that one winter when Avatar was the most important thing in the world, and then everyone collectively forgot about it? And it had no actual impact on pop culture? No, not that Apple. Unfortunately, my rotator cuff is just screwed. They already tried to fix it and failed. So it would be... My decrees would be fix my knee. My left knee is shot. Yeah, you gotta laugh out of me from that line. No, if you put me on the Iron Throne, I would do my best, but the inevitable horny jail would I would be sent to horny jail. Sooner or later, I would be like, you know, concubines would be nice, and then bam, I'm in horny jail. And that's it, I blew it. I'm not going to press X, I'm going to hold X. I'm just holding the button down. Haha, it's more efficient, except probably not. It requires less attention. Press X in Skyrim. I don't know what X does in Skyrim. I'm sure it does something. I'm gonna turn off autorun and then press X. Okay, maybe X doesn't do anything. X is not doing anything. Should have autorun back on now. Yep. Don't walk away. We don't want to actually wake up the bear. Boy, that would be the worst thing. If like 100 hours into this, I accidentally whack the mouse, my character spins to the right and walks into the bear, and it wakes up, and I will have lost 100 hours of progress. I wouldn't actually, I'd reload the quick save, so I'd lose whatever progress was made that stream. It would be unbearable. That joke was unbearable. My first act on the Iron Throne is I'm going to repeal the amendment that lets you keep and bear puns. The Skyrim display is so dark you didn't realize it was... I mean, I'm looking at the OBS preview and it's there. Like, if I turn toward a light source... Like, you can see Skyrim, right? I don't think the... I don't need the quest journal tutorial. It's gonna do that every time. I mean, it's normal brightness. I can turn it up. There, now I have a brighter cave wall. I don't know if that's actually any better. I mean, if I wasn't running into a cave wall, I would probably not be able to have the brightness that high. Although my monitor's brightness is pretty low. Why am I being punished like this? Why am I drifting to the right slightly? I mean, did you not see when I brought up the character menu and leveled up? I mean, I know it had to be visible. There's white text and giant shiny stars and things. Yeah, I'm gonna assert that that's a you problem, Jay. So, what we've learned tonight is that nobody should sit on the Iron Throne. It's not comfortable. And people will kill you. Or send you to horny jail. Thank you, Table Topics, for this riveting discussion. Get it? Iron? Rivet? No? I thought that was a stupendous joke. Well, I have to test your metal. You know, some of these jokes, you have to take a while to let them sink in. What are you gonna do about it? Call a copper? No, you can't both use the same pun. One of you has to go outside. I'm running out of legitimate jokes. I better go pirate some from the internet. Oh, that was a good one, Jay. I like that. I don't know, a lot of these jokes are so dumb. I'm branching out. I have to use the whole periodic table. Alright, have a good night, Jay. Thank you for tuning in. And thank you for the resub. I appreciate it. Every little bit helps. No, I can't remember. That's the problem. No, it's walk in the wall. It's walk straight. It's run in the circle. Walk straight in Skyrim. Run in the circle. Hold X. These are the speedrun strats for level 99 that nobody should ever do. Yet here I sit. Baby, now how am I supposed to follow this hour of the stream up with another hour that's anywhere near as engaging? Yeah, that's the beautiful thing about it, Mathwin, is that as long as I'm the only one who does it, I have the world record by default. And hell, I inspired a speedrunner to recreate the Final Fantasy VII thing. He did it in a month. He did like 400 hours in a month of 12-hour days. It was amazing. And he was definitely more entertaining than I was. Maybe I'll inspire somebody to do this in one continuous sitting. But I probably shouldn't. That would be very bad for them. I legit don't remember their name. It was a couple years ago, and they did it for like the whole month of December. Like, I didn't see that. I was told about it after the fact. So, I unfortunately never interacted with them. Hey, we got to level 20. I think I've missed several buttons on the fight counter, but whatever. It's inevitable that I will. You know, just for safety's sake... Whoop! Just for safety's sake, I'm going to turn off the auto run for a sec. Am I still in a good spot? Okay, I'm still in a good spot. That was a major slippage against the rock wall there. Yeah, I may wait until... I don't know, the end of the week to audit the fight counter. If I do it every day, I'll just get annoyed at myself for not being accurate with it. And frankly, that was the reason I took it out in the first place. This misguided perfectionism. Why would I have it randomize the number? Like, that would only work if I could do it in such a way that it keeps track and will, like, display every number once. And then when it gets to 1, it's accurate. So, like, it starts on however many fights it takes to get from the starting point to level 99. You hit the button, and it goes to a random number in the interval between that and 1. And then you hit it again, and it goes to a different random number. But it never repeats, and it actually still keeps correct count, such that at the end, you'll hit the button 8,882, hit the button 79,120, hit the button 67, hit the button 1, hit the button 0, you're done. And even if you do that, that's good for a gag in something where you can do it in one sitting. Like, you could do Final Fantasy Tactics in one sitting. You could do Final Fantasy VIII in one sitting if you have a good share, because that was like 13 hours. But, like, a random inaccurate counter for years on end would cease to be funny very quickly. I don't think it would loop back to funny. And it wouldn't need to just be 1. It would have to be 1, 0. And those would have to be, like, the last 2. In that order. So, like, I guess the proper way to do it is randomize the numbers. Put 1 and 0 at the end. Put it in a spreadsheet. And then have it so that it's just displaying what is in the current cell of the spreadsheet. And every time you hit the button, it moves down a cell. So you have a seeded list. But that is like layers of things that I don't know how to do. Biblical history. Oh, I'm gonna have to go get my biblical history book. Give me un momento, por favor. My biblical history book was thick enough that it knocked over a bunch of stuff on my shelf and almost crushed my cyberpunk comic books. But that's fine. I saved it. Okay, page 420. What do we got? This is going to be Old Testament for sure. Did I just grab the wrong book? Yes, I grabbed the Shakespeare book instead of the Bible book. I'll be right back again. Alright, I just knocked even more stuff off my shelf. There's now a huge mess that I will have to pick up. So hopefully this will be worth it. So 420. We are in the second book of Chronicles. Wow, this whole page is not even the end of the century, so I have to go back a little bit. So page 420 concerns Asa, and I'm gonna have to read the whole freaking page because it's all about Asa. So this is Old Testament, second book of Chronicles. Asa, the son of Abijah, if I'm pronouncing any of these names incorrectly, of course I am, is described as a reforming king. Consequently, one can be confident that he has nothing to fear in the face of a new invasion, one that is not mentioned in First Book of Kings. 2 Chronicles chapter 14 verse 9, and there came out against them, Judah, Zerah the Ethiopian, with a host of 1,000,000 and 300 chariots, and came unto Marishah. The thought of a 1,000,000-man army swarming into Judah, Marishah is about 25 miles southwest of Jerusalem, in the 9th century BC rather staggers the imagination. The chronicler, however, is just emphasizing the glory of Asa's eventual victory, and the figure need not be taken seriously. 2 Chronicles chapter 14 verses 11 through 14. And Asa cried unto the Lord, so the Lord smote the Ethiopians before Asa, and Asa pursued them unto Gerar, and they smote all the cities round about Gerar. The chronicler may exaggerate and moralize, but he does not apparently manufacture stories outright. Zerah and his invasion are not mentioned in 1 Kings, which, however, concentrates to a large extent on Israel, and it may well be that Zerah's attack was actually only a minor raid by a border chieftain. Shishak, after his own successful raid, may have placed an army detachment at Gerar, south of Judah, and in Asa's time, an Ethiopian mercenary may have been in charge of that detachment. It would be his raid that was beaten off. Asa reigned from 915 to 875 BC, and in this period, the second pharaoh of the Libyan dynasty reigned. He was Osorkon I, who reigned from 919 to 883 BC. It is not beyond the realm of the possible that Zerah was Osorkon. In Asa's case, however, the pendulum swings back. He is pressed hard by Baasha of Israel, and therefore makes an alliance with Syria. Such trust in worldly alliances rather than in the Lord offends the prophetic party, and the chronicler hastens from that to an account of Asa's death through a disease of the feet. He puts in a further touch of disapproval in a pair of verses that are sometimes used in modern times as a jibe at the medical profession. 2 Chronicles chapter 16 verses 12 and 13. Yet in his disease he sought not to the Lord but to the physicians, and Asa slept with his fathers. There you have it. Page 420 of Asimov's Guide to the Bible. I hope it was worth the mess that I'm going to have to clean up after this stream is over, because my goodness, was that a mess. I should probably put the Shakespeare book as a thing too. I have Asimov's Guide to Shakespeare, which similarly goes over the historical, geographic, etc. context of Shakespeare's plays. Not all of his works, I don't think. I don't think it has, like, the sonnets or anything. And I believe those are also arranged in the chronological order in which the plays are set. So not the order that Shakespeare wrote them, but, like, he's got the Greek plays, then the Roman plays, and then I don't know what period he calls it for like Macbeth and Hamlet. Those like Dark Ages, Middle Ages, and then the like Italian with like Romeo and Juliet, Merchant of Venice, and then I think it ends with the English plays where you have like Richard III, the various Henrys. But yeah, I knocked over the Shakespeare book for which the binding is ripped out, so all of the pages fell out of the book in one or two clumps, so that was easy to put back. But I also knocked over like 30 playing cards for a game called Chrononauts. Made by the creators of Flux, and you can really tell that it's made by the creators of Flux because it is super lol random in terms of who wins. But it's about time travel and paradoxes, and therefore it interested me greatly. So I got it. It's kind of an interesting premise. Every player in Chrononauts is a time traveler from a different timeline. And the game board is a chronology of events representing our timeline from like late 1800s to end of the 20th century. That are all events as they happened in history. And this is nobody's actual home timeline. Like, this is an alternate timeline for every player. And they are trying to change the timeline of events until it matches their own timeline so that they can go home. And there are some relatively grounded characters, and then there are some very silly characters. You have grounded characters where, like, John Lennon is not assassinated, the attack at Waco, Texas doesn't happen, marijuana is legalized, and it's like kind of a hippie modern times. So naturally the character is a hippie. And then you have player characters who are a sentient cockroach who, after the humans obliterated themselves in a nuclear holocaust in World War III, the cockroaches survived and evolved to become the dominant species on the planet. So he is trying to have World War III happen and nuke the world. And then he can go home. And there are actually special rules for World War III where, you know, obviously World War III happens. It's the destruction of the entire human race, so it makes all future events inaccessible because none of them happen. So if you're anybody else, you have to go back in time and prevent World War III before you can do basically anything else. The problem is that, like, that's only one way to win. Another way to win is every time you change, there are certain events on the timeline you can change. They're called linchpins. and they affect other periods, or they affect other parts of the timeline, which become paradoxes, and then you play cards over them to show the new event that happens instead of the thing that was prevented. And every time you patch an event like that, you get to basically draw an extra card and your maximum hand size goes up. And if your maximum hand size hits 10, you have done so well repairing the timeline that basically the time cops give you a promotion and you win the game. So that's another route to victory that has nothing to do with trying to go back to your correct timeline. You're just trying to get a promotion. And then the third way to win is there are various historical and pseudo-historical artifacts. And everybody has basically gotten an assignment to collect 3 different historical artifacts. And if you can do that, then you win the game immediately. And the artifacts are things like tomorrow's newspaper today, or videotape of the creation of the universe, or there's like 3 different living dinosaurs. There's 3 different Mona Lisas. There's the real Mona Lisa, a convincing counterfeit Mona Lisa, which is the Mona Lisa but with a little handlebar mustache drawn on her face. And then there's an obvious fake Mona Lisa, which is just like everything's wrong with it. And there's missions around collecting versions of the Mona Lisa, and that's the most common way to win, is you just get 3 cards and then you win the game without having to do anything else. So yeah, it's very not strategic. It's very clearly made by the creators of Flux. And I knocked over about 30 cards from an expansion to that game. I wonder if my PS2 controller cord will let me go and grab some of those cards, because that could be amusing. Give me 1 second. I'm going to see if I can hold down X while collecting some of this. Okay, I grabbed a handful of cards. Let's see what we got here. Alright, we got Mason. Mason's timeline. In 1974, President King takes office. President Martin Luther King Jr. In 1995, the Oklahoma City bombing happens. That happens normally. And then in 1999, guns are banned instead of the Columbine shooting. And his story is, I should have looked at his face. Once I ran over an old man. When Dr. Argus's time center opened, I had to stop myself. Too late, I saw my own headlights coming at me. When I didn't return, Argus guessed what happened, came back, and told my younger self. I'm now traveling timelines, instituting licensing systems to prevent it from happening again. So you are somebody who went back in time to stop himself from running somebody over, only to find out that you were the person that you ran over and you killed your future self, and now you've erased yourself from the timeline or something. Oh yeah, and this also had an extension to the timeline on it, so some of those cards are just referring to real events that happened after the year 2000. Ooh, Tiberius. I like that name, Tiberius. For Tiberius's timeline, in 1942, the Nuremberg race laws were repealed, so something changed in Germany. In 1969, Apollo 11 lands on the moon. That happened. And in 1986, marijuana is legalized. That's Tiberius's timeline. The slingshot effect. Now that the chief science officer has mastered the slingshot effect, allowing us to harness the sun's gravity to propel a ship forward or back through time. This sounds like a Star Trek reference. Yeah, James Tiberius Kirk. There we go. That's who it is. We've been able to search out even more new life and new civilizations. Of course, the crew has a non-interference directive, but let's face it, accidents do happen. So yes, that is Star Trek IV: The Wrath of Khan. Hello, Dark. Dark? I'm assuming that's just pronounced Dark. Thank you for tuning in. We're talking about a game called Chrononauts and how you're time travelers from alternate realities. And we're going over what some of those time travelers are. Such as Angela. In Angela's timeline, in 1917, President Wilson keeps the U.S. out of war, so the U.S. never joins World War I. In 1929, the Titanic explodes. So it doesn't sink to an iceberg, it gets exploded years later, because it didn't sink in 29. It sank in like, what, 24? I don't remember. And then in 1945, the atom bomb was dropped on Japan, so that actually happened, so some good and bad there. Arrested Development. I had tracked an elusive time criminal to an abandoned mill. After a brief struggle, I had caught this masked woman. But under the mask was me 5 years later. My duty was to uphold the time stream, so I put my older self in prison and went on a 5-year crime spree. That sounds awesome. You find out that your future self is a criminal and you're like, well, I'm a time cop, gotta uphold the times line. I'll arrest myself and then do some crimes for 5 years. Have a good night, Not That Apple. Thank you for stopping by, tuning in for as long as you did. I appreciate it. Well, look, you don't want to cause a paradox. That's horrible. Going to time jail is better than erasing all existence. Next, we have Zane Renak. In 1918, in Zane's timeline, Europe is in ruins after World War I. Okay, that really happened. In 1948, Berlin hosts the World's Fair, so something happened with World War II there. And in 1962, World War III happens. Wait a minute. This is another character that wants World War III to happen. At long last, the UFOs arrived. Tragically, the Earth was a wasteland by then. Nothing remained of human civilization except a time capsule buried during a World's Fair 5,000 years ago. But those artifacts inspired us to use time travel to rescue humanity by preventing a global atomic war. What we didn't consider was how mankind's survival would impact our own. So this is future aliens find us after we wiped ourselves out, and we're like, wow, these humans, they're neat. Let's bring them back. And then they bring us back and find out that humans suck. We need to make sure that they actually get wiped out. So that's why they're trying to cause World War III. Next up, we've got Herbert. In Herbert's timeline, in 1918, the European economy booms, so probably no World War I at all. In 1929, the Titanic explodes again, so once again doesn't sink, but explodes. And then in 1939, Germany invades Poland, so that's as per usual. Seeing is believing. When a fellow member of the Diogenes Club told Herbert... Okay, so that's... Diogenes Club was Sherlock Holmes. That's like where Mycroft Holmes was. When a fellow member of the Diogenes Club told Herbert he had actually built Herbert's fictional time machine, Herbert didn't... Oh, this is H.G. Wells. Herbert H.G. Wells. Herbert didn't believe it. Challenged to try it, he scoffed at first, but eventually relented. To his utter astonishment, he got a first-hand look at the shape of things to come. So this is Victorians visiting the future. Instead of time travelers going back to the past. Next up, we got Isaac. In Isaac's timeline, in 1933, there's a mild recession. So again, sounds like we're preventing World War II. In 1969, cosmonauts orbit the moon. So the space race gets screwed with. And then in 1999, the Columbine High School massacre occurs. So that's as usual. Stepping back in front of the gun. Go on, give me a random battle. There we go. Preventing your own death sure sounds great when you're a time-traveling ghost. So I stopped the killing spree that finished me. Great idea, right? Well, when I saw what the me that got saved was like 20 years later and grown up, I decided the bastard deserved to die after all. So, this is potentially in poor taste. If somebody named Isaac was actually killed during the Columbine shooting, that seems in extremely poor taste. Let's just move on from that, shall we? We got one more that I grabbed off the floor. Yeah, that is a real choice there. Mick. Oh, this is related to the expansion that adds on events after the year 2000. In Mick's timeline, in 2002, war continues in Afghanistan. Well, that really happened. In 2003, Osama bin Laden was captured. So, something good there, I guess. Presumably. I don't remember what the default event of 2003 would be. And in 2008, first female president is elected. So, Barack Obama is defeated by Hillary Clinton in 2008. Remember Florida? In the 2060s, global warming destroyed most of Florida. But in my universe, Gore's environmental initiatives delayed this by about 10 years. That doesn't seem like much. During that extra decade, a massive circular levee was built around the city of Orlando, with key areas of the vacation mecca also being enclosed under huge domes. This was my hometown, Orlando. So Mick is Mickey Mouse, or named after Mickey Mouse. So he's trying to save the Walt Disney World Resort from being swallowed up by global warming. I don't know, I saw a Kurzgesagt's video recently. I don't know how authoritative they are. They allege to cite their sources, but I don't read them. And I doubt many people do. That said, like, the really catastrophic climate change has mostly been averted. We slowed down our rate of carbon emission and whatnot. That we're not going to have, like, the total collapse of the human race as a viable species. So we're headed in the right direction. And, you know, as technology improves and renewables and nuclear become, well, nuclear is already more economically viable, it's just politically not viable. And as carbon removal technology advances, then the rate will slow down even more. So I think it's too early to say that we're utterly doomed. We're headed in the right direction. Yeah, it's not an amazing pitch, but the constant doomsaying of by 2010 we'll be underwater, by 2020 we'll be underwater, like projecting the worst case scenario just lessens your argument when that obviously doesn't come to pass. Because people will see that and say, oh, we're not underwater in 2020. Your entire argument is invalid, which is also the wrong conclusion to draw from that. But so yeah, utter doomsaying is not an amazing pitch either. The fact of the matter is, economic incentive is going to drive choices. And as the economics of renewables becomes more and more attractive, it's going to be selected for more and more, which is going to drive more investment, which is going to make it more attractive and more viable, and it's going to be a virtuous circle. And the only question is whether we get there in time, and signs point to yes. Wow, there's a question. I mean, I mean, the sooner we get there, the better. But at the same time, I'll be really sad if I'm still doing this 10 years from now. Like, if the comparison becomes, what's faster, getting to level 99 in Final Fantasy IX or solving global warming, and it turns out the answer is solving global warming, I'm gonna feel real bad. Maybe that's just selfish of me, though. That's why I shouldn't sit on the Iron Throne. Well, that's easy. I'm just gonna pick a future event that won't happen until after I'm dead. And then it'll just be a question of, do I do it? Yes, no. Or I choose a future event that won't actually happen. What'll happen first? Will I get to level 99, or will George Washington come back from the dead as a zombie? Who can say? You're right, I'm not. What will happen first? Will I finish the Final Fantasy IX grind? Or will sexy alien babes abduct me and take me to horny jail? Probably the grind. Although if you're watching and you're a sexy alien babe, I don't think Twitch broadcasts outer space though, so. So what I need is some crazy person to rebroadcast this on a television signal that's strong enough to reach outer space. And then centuries from now, it'll reach the alien babes. Isn't this how it works? I don't know. I don't know what kind of future events you had in mind. I feel like any other future event that's not ludicrous and silly will just be, like, mean-spirited. Like, did you ever see Angels in the Outfield? Yeah, I don't want to... Yeah, it's depressing. Who cares? But yeah, Angels in the Outfield. This kid's a huge fan of baseball that, I guess he inherited his love of baseball from his dad. And his parents are getting divorced. And the whole premise of it is he, like, asks his dad before his dad leaves when he and his mom will get back together. Because the kid is in denial about his parents getting divorced. And this was like the 90s or whatever, so this was back when the Angels sucked. The guy says, oh, when the Angels win the pennant. It's like, you know, it'll never happen. He says it sarcastically. And that is the driving force of the entire movie. Because the kid then prays for the Angels to win the pennant so that his parents will get back together. And, like, apparently God doesn't understand sarcasm? Or God knows that it was sarcastic and decides to just prolong this kid's misery. Or something, I don't know, because he sends Christopher Lloyd and a bunch of angels to help the baseball team win the pennant. And then the kid's parents don't get back together because that was never going to happen. And that's how the movie ends. No, it's called Angels in the Outfield. Obviously it has... And this was, like, played as a comedy. Because you have Christopher Lloyd... There was, like, jokes. This was a kid's movie. Oh yeah, championships don't count, or whatever nonsense. So they can have a dramatic moment where... But apparently they only don't help during Game 7, or whatever. Because there's only one game where they don't get help, and that's, like, the deciding game, and baseball, like, playoffs are in series. You play 5 games or 7 games against the same team, and it's a best of 5 or a best of 7. So, like, they got angelic help for the rest of the season so that they could make the playoffs, because they wouldn't have made the playoffs without it. That's not cheating. They get through the playoffs to, you know, the pennant race. That's not cheating. They get through the pennant series until Game 7, and then it's cheating, so they have to stop. So the Angels have to legitimately only win one game, and that therefore makes it a legitimate pennant win, even though they got cheating help the entire way up to that. And it was all pointless because none of it was going to get the kids' parents back together. No, they were not foster kids. This was one kid. He didn't have brothers and sisters, I don't think. It was just one kid. He had parents, they were getting divorced. And the way that the movie frames it, the dad is like a deadbeat who runs off and leaves his wife and their kid. But the kid looks up to the dad, so it's like, oh, he's... But the framing of it as a deadbeat is that he makes the sarcastic comment, oh, we'll get back together when the Angels win the pennant. And he rides off on a motorcycle and wears a motorcycle jacket. And you're supposed to... And this is framed, like, negatively. Like, the dad is irresponsible because he rides a motorcycle. I don't remember the specifics, but basically when the kid convinces like the management of the team that no, I can really see these angelic powers and I can tell you how to win the game, they take care of him. They get him into the games and give him good seats and all that stuff. So like if he does get him season tickets, he gets an upgrade. Based on, you know, supernatural powers helping cheat them a win. And I guess the end of the movie is supposed to be happy because he gets to spend time with the pro sports team and has, like, developed relationships with these adult men who have their own families. And I guess it's supposed to be a lesson about, you know, family is the people that care about you, not the people you're blood related to or whatever. But it's like... Yeah, exactly. Who needs a dad when you have such great role models as sports celebrities? Except, you know, this was a Disney movie. These were not real athletes appearing in this movie. They were, you know, fictional schlubs. And that's how the movie ends. The dad's like, no, we're not getting back together, even though the Angels just won the pennant. And the kid learns that the real parents getting back together were the celebrity athletes you made along the way. And also Christopher Lloyd, who's a literal angel who has been gaslighting you for the entire movie. Hey, Rude Sensei, how's it going? I'm talking about Angels in the Outfield and getting to sneak 66. Do you remember Angels in the Outfield? Of course not. Because nobody's as old as I am on the internet for some reason. Oh, you do? Do you remember how it ends? Because I sure remember it ending with a real downer of an ending that they'd make uplifting artificially. Where the whole movie is hinged on the kid wanting his parents not to get divorced. And at the end of the movie, the kid's parents get divorced anyway, because the entire premise of the movie was based on a sarcastic comment. Like, imagine the movie that would have happened if the dad had said, we'll get back together when pigs fly. And then you have kid praying for angels to donate their wings to pigs, and then he's like trying to teach the pigs to fly with their angel wings or whatever. And maybe there's an evil meat packer or butcher or, you know, evil equivalent of Hormel Foods who wants to turn the pigs into sausage. And that's the movie. Oh, was it a foster situation? Okay, I stand corrected. The Angels manager, who's like 50-something, adopts a 12-year-old. And then next season, the God's not cheating for the team anymore, and they slump back down to the bottom of the rankings. The manager realizes what a horrible mistake it was to adopt this kid. So yeah, Angels in the Outfield. What a weird movie. Got at least one sequel, I think. I want to say that they made like Angels in the End Zone for football or something. Oh, so you learned nothing about baseball. Well, stealing bases is eventually always the right move. And, that was kind of the point that no, he couldn't. That's why he kept getting kicked down and relegated. Like, he could if I had done it correctly, and, you know, regrets about how that LP went. I think I've gone over this before with you. That I should have played it differently, I should have edited and recorded the episodes differently. So that I didn't simulate as many games. Because inside the sim, his stats were not good enough to carry him. And if I had played it manually, he would have done better, he would have gotten more points to invest into his stats, and he would have developed into a pro player. He would have been the Babe Ruthiest modern player. Just a round ball of a man who can hit homers and steal bases. And play right field. He literally would have been a new Babe Ruth. And instead, he couldn't even rise to the level of mediocrity of Baby Ruth, the candy bar. Which I haven't seen in stores in quite a while, I should mention. Now, the real deep cut is who remembers the other little kid baseball team movie, Little Big League? Does anybody else remember Little Big League? Now that I'm even saying it, am I remembering the right movie? It's the one where the kid basically hurts his arm in such a way that when it heals, he can throw 200-mile-an-hour fastballs or something like that. And so he gets recruited to a major league team as a pitcher, despite being a child. Because as a child, he has this superpower to throw strikes. And Daniel Stern is in it as, like, his agent or pitching coach or something. And it's like, he's got a single mom. The dad is out of the picture for whatever reason, I don't remember. But also somehow his mom is an ex-baseball player or something. Because the climax of the movie is that he falls again, but instead of hurting his arm again, all it does is undo his superpower, so that he throws the baseball normally, so he can't throw the 200-mile-an-hour fastball anymore, but he still has, like, one inning to pitch, and for whatever reason, they don't just pull him. They leave him in the game for whatever reason. It's like, you gotta finish the game. So, it relies on totally illegal trick plays, like hiding the baseball and doing fake out stuff to get runners out. That's like, it's just straight up against the rules of baseball. And throwing his mom's signature pitch, which I don't think is even considered a strike, but in the movie is considered a strike. Where it's like this underhand pitch, they call it a floater, I think, where it basically arcs super high up and then is supposed to fall vertically over the plate. But, like, that's not how strikes work. It needs to cross the entire plate in the strike zone to some extent, you know, umpires being what they are. So it's supposed to be a pitch that's like, oh, it's so impossible to master because if you do it wrong, it's either a ball or it's just a free home run for the batter. So you have to be like expert level pitcher to throw floaters. And that's why nobody does it. And this kid, because his mom did it, he has the genetic memory to do it. So he strikes out the last batter with a floater and is the hero of the movie. Well, the real magic was getting paid to play professional baseball as a child in violation of child labor laws, and, you know, having a ridiculous amount of money set aside for your actual real life so you never have to work a day in your life. And I'm sure at the end of the movie, oh, he can't be the pitcher anymore, but he'll be the bat boy, or he'll be on the pitching staff, or whatever. Daniel Stern will adopt him, I don't know. Daniel Stern and his mom will hook up, and Daniel Stern will become his stepdad. That's gross to think about, but that probably happened, and I repressed it. I repressed it until I started to make a joke about it, and then it became real. IMDb is updating its plot synopsis as I'm speaking. Yeah, I'm sure it's on the level of there's no rule that says a dog can't play basketball. But, like, it's beyond the suspension of disbelief of, yeah, this kid has the superpower to play baseball. It's the kid has the superpower to play baseball until he loses it, at which point we're just gonna break every rule of baseball in order to have him win the game by cheating and say that it's legit. Never mind that we could just pull him out of the game and put in a reliever to get the last out or whatever, or pitch the last inning. Because, you know, relievers are a thing in baseball. Oh, I'm sure there are actual rules that say a child can't play pro baseball, or pro football, or pro basketball, or pro soccer, or pro wrestling, or pro MMA. I'm sure there are rules against children doing all of these pro sports. Man, can you imagine if that genre was still alive nowadays? So you have, like, the kids movie about the child MMA fighter, and you go to the finale where he's got the title bout against Conor McGregor, and it's just Conor McGregor beating the crap out of a 9-year-old. And that's the finale of the movie. Conor McGregor just swearing up a storm, talking trash at a 9-year-old before beating him to death in the octagon. There you go, Angels in the Octagon. But you have the problem of he has to not cheat to win the title. So Conor McGregor just beats the crap out of him. I'm sure it's just because I'm not tuned in to the kid meta these days, being a grown-ass adult. But I'm kind of surprised there aren't more, like, movies premised on live streaming or, like, esports. Like, where are the sports films about Evo or about StarCraft? Or MOBAs. How come, like, there was that one, like, I forget if it was Nickelodeon or Disney, I think it was Nickelodeon, that iCarly, that was about the little girl thought in training with her own web show. And then there was, like, I remember one horror movie about people in a Skype call, and the people in the Skype call keep dying. And that's, like, the horror movie, is that the killer is killing people via Skype. And, like, that was it. Like, I don't... Like, why isn't there more about... Like, you would think internet culture would have seeped into that by now. Just as a getting dollars perspective. There's more video game movies. We got the Sonic movies, we had the Angry Birds movie. I'm sure we're getting a Minecraft movie if we haven't already. But, like, new media hasn't appeared in movies the way that one would expect. Like, the closest thing I can think of is Pixels, where it was like competitive video gamers grown up. But even that was like based on arcade games or something. Or it was more, what's his face? The guy, the Mr. King of Kong. Billy Mitchell. Like that kind of character where they're like, where's Summoning Salt the movie? Where's the movie about speedrunners? Where's the movie about esports? Exactly, we need a modern day The Wizard. I don't know anything about a DDR movie. I'm also not sure how you make DDR into a movie. Unless, I guess you use like the dance contest format of teen movie. You know, Footloose, DDR. The problem with that is Kevin Bacon's too old. If we had a young Kevin Bacon on a DDR pad, that'd be amazing. Is the FP the name of the movie? Also, fighting over territory by playing legally not DDR is like an entire side quest in the Yakuza series. I played Yakuza 0. I remember that side quest. I mean, what kind of movie would it be if not a comedy? You can't do that premise as a drama. I know I beat it. I don't remember how many tries it took me, though, but I eventually did all the side stories, including beating the disco boss. And, like, maxing out the businesses and everything. It's kind of sad. I did that, and then, like, I did the last story mission before the finale, and then I set the game aside and I haven't touched it since. So I've never done the finale of Yakuza 0. And I still haven't beaten the game. Look, the telephone game could have been a lot worse. In terms of skeeziness. Points at every porno game that exists. But the annoying part of that was like doing the telephone game, like there's like half a dozen different characters you have to meet or whatever, and you have no control over which one comes out. So you, like, if you're missing one, it sucks trying to get the last one via RNG from answering the stupid telephone. I think I looked up a guide and the guide said that the different, like the silhouette that you see during the minigame changes based on who is on the other end of the phone. So you can, like, use that as a tell for if you're in the right call or not. And then if you're not, you just hang up or you reset or whatever. Try again. So you're still grinding it out, but it's like, ugh. Also, I'm kind of surprised that your breaking point on the side stories is the telephone game and not the literal softcore porn tapes. Although I don't think those count as side stories. And I say softcore porn, but I think nobody actually takes their top off. So it's like the tamest porn there could possibly be. Yeah, I don't remember if those count as side stories or not. Pretty sure they don't, because I'm fairly sure I did not remotely get them all, but I did get the trophy for doing all the side stories. How did I get up to 8 viewers? It's 11 o'clock at night on the West Coast. Go to bed. I need to go to bed. I was on 3 viewers for a while. I thought I was just going to end it. But now I'm up to 8 apparently. Start talking about softcore porn and the people come out in droves. This is where I turn this into an ASMR stream. All this talk about softcore is making me hot. I need to take my jacket off. That I legitimately do need to take my hoodie off, so... Yet another reason I don't have a freaking face cam. Ah. Get out of here. Hey, Sneak 72. Also, I could have leveled up a while ago. Let's get some Staminam. Wasn't that the name of the energy drink in Yakuza? Or Staminax, or I don't know. Something weird like that. I completely did not pay attention to what level I'm at. I think it was 21 in Skyrim, 60 still in Final Fantasy IX, 60 still for a while. Although I'm pretty sure I'll get to 61 before I get to 99 in Skyrim, so I will level up in Final Fantasy IX. Which will be good. Because that's the primary objective. That is the reason for the season. A season of grinding. Fresh grind black pepper. Something. You can tell I'm tired because I'm just talking nonsense at this point. And I'm sure my fight count is way off. How many games will I get to? That's... I mean... There are not many games that I can do split screen with Final Fantasy IX to just grind to 99 in without input. Skyrim is kind of unique in that case. I could do it in Fallout. It would take a long time, but I could do it in Fallout. And when I say Fallout, I mean Fallout 4. I guess technically I can do it in New Vegas. I could get to the level cap in New Vegas, in Good Springs. But both of those are way more active. Also, I would have to look up how it works. The legit way to get to max level in Good Springs is to play Caravan for your entire life against Ringo. because I'm pretty sure you get XP for every caravan game you play. And doing that until you got to max level would kill you, but hey. But there is some kind of speech exploit you can do with Chet, I think, the guy who runs the store in Good Springs. So that you can basically do the same speech option with him repeatedly and get the XP for that each time. Yeah, I'd have to look up the specifics for it. As far as MMOs go, like, if anything, it ought to be Final Fantasy XIV, because that has the free trial that lasts forever. Because I'm not going to pay money. A friend of mine did the math on the starting zone. Like, if you took my premise of get to level 99 in the starting zone, or get to max level because the free trial caps at 60, he did the math on it, and it's like, it would be like trying to do it legit in a Dark Souls game, where you're literally spending hundreds of years. It is just such a low return with such a high XP curve. Yeah, I don't know anything about RuneScape. Like, apparently Final Fantasy XIV has daily roulette jobs that you can do in the starting area somehow. I don't know the mechanics of it, but it's so little XP. It was something like over 1,000 hours to gain 1 level at the end of the curve. Although he was going up to the level cap of 80, but he was like, going from level 79 to 80 would take over 1,000 hours. Fallout 76 costs money. And also, I don't know anything about that game, but I imagine that starting area is not going to have the kind of exploits that Final Fantasy New Vegas or 4 would have. Final Fantasy 4, you could do it, and it would just take forever and be way more active. Because, like, I had the video series. I got to level 50 without leaving Sanctuary in Final Fantasy 4. That took a good long while. And 4 is like Skyrim, where there's technically no level cap, but the game starts crashing at a certain point. And 50 seemed like a good high level, because like you can finish the game before level 50. And 50 is, with all the DLC, 50 is the level cap in New Vegas. So that seemed like a good number. So I've done that in Fallout 4. I've gotten to level 50 in the starting area. Or I've gotten to level 50 without leaving Sanctuary. So, like, yeah, technically I could get to level 99 in Fallout 4 without leaving Sanctuary, but it requires such active controls that I couldn't do it alongside using the controller to grind Final Fantasy IX. And that's the real hurdle, is I have to do it alongside Final Fantasy IX. The only MMO I can think of that lets you passively grind is EVE Online. Because that game has, like, timed skill training. Where, like, you get a book to teach you a skill, and it takes real time, however long, minutes, hours, whatever, during which you can log off and it will continue without you. But that has a monthly fee. And like you could do that in the high security area where you don't get ganked by PvPers. But like, you would need a guild, or whatever they're called in EVE, corporations or whatever. You would need a guild supporting it. And you need either pay money or have your guild fund it for you. Because, like, the main thing about EVE is that you can pay the monthly fee with in-game currency, or you can buy the item that you need for your sub with in-game currency. So yeah, I'd have to go to, like, Goon Swarm, if that still is a thing. Go to something awful. EVE Corp. And solicit them to help me, because that's where I make my Let's Plays. And just hope that they agree to it. Because they would need to cover, you know, the skill books that you need to level up. And I'm sure there is something passive that can be done as, like, reciprocity. I'm sure there's, like, crafting or whatever. Well, I mean, functionally, I think it'd be the same as this, where, and when I say this, I'm pointing at Skyrim. Where I start the thing, and it sits, and it does its thing, and occasionally I interact to gain a level or whatever. But otherwise, it just sits and passively gains levels, and it's on PC, so I can capture it in OBS, and it's just the expense of it would be unreasonable to do solo. I mean, that's just an idle game. I would hardly call getting to level in idle game in any way in any way an accomplishment. Because that's literally the point of the game. Yeah, that's not the point, though. The point is that, like, doing these grinds is like defying the convention of the game. Nobody does this. Nobody grinds to level 99 in the cave in Helgen. Nobody grinds to level 99 in the evil forest in Final Fantasy IX. Or the first reactor in Final Fantasy VII. Everybody grinds in Progress Quest because the game is grinding. That's not anything unique or compelling. That's just playing Progress Quest. In as much as you can play an idle game. No, I'm pretty sure I'm a nobody. Mostly what I am is tired. So I think it's time we head on back. Hey, we didn't get into the half fight. That's amazing. We're gonna make sure we're healed. We got potions, yay. Potions, good. Drop our savey save. Turn off the auto run. We'll drop our quickie save in Skyrim. And let's see. Oh, we hit 380 hours and a half. And for those of you on YouTube, today's secret word of the day is gallium. This is a callback to the puns from the beginning. If you post gallium in the comments, then I'll know that you made it to the end of the video. I would say nobody to this point has posted the secret word, but that is because the last two videos are still awaiting copyright claim resolutions, as I try to tell them that yes, I paid for the license, which is why you're hearing Final Fantasy IX in this video, because I'm tired of dealing with that, and I need a better solution that probably involves commissioning original music, which costs money, which I don't have. And what else I don't have is sleep, so I'm trying to get some. Thank you all very much for watching, and until next time, take care.